Today, we're going to talk about why online business feels so hard, especially a business that depends on content creation. Most people think the fix is better time management, so they'll plan for everything. They'll post more consistently, reply faster to the leads, and maybe hire someone to take the admin off their plate. But here's what I've learned after a decade in content and marketing. That's not the real problem. The real problem is that your business is trapped inside your head, and no habit or hire can fix that problem unless you have proper systems in place to use your knowledge and to do your work on automation. My name is Atharva, and I have generated across 35 million views working on different styles of content like long form, short form, video, and ads. And these days, I'm building an AI powered content system that helps coaches and founders run a business that doesn't entirely depend on them to hold it together. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact three-part system I call the Content Revenue Flywheel, which consists of three operating systems, and I'll show you how these three work together to actually remove you as the bottleneck so you can get more done in less time and earn money out of your content. So let's dive in. Now, before I get into the systems, I want to make sure that we're looking at the right problem here. So here's how it usually looks like. You post when you have time, which means you are not really consistent, and you've got leads in your DMs that you haven't replied to because you were busy with clients, and you also had a post idea like 3 days ago, and that's just sitting in your notes. And also, there's a lot of follow-ups that you have to make, but you just keep it pushing for tomorrow. Now, I don't mean to say that you're bad at running a business, but it just means that your business was never built to run without you. Because what happens is every new client or every new task, it just gets added to your plate, and it can only hold together unless and until you are present yourself in the trenches working on it, right? And the moment you move out of it, it just starts crumbling and things slip through your hands. And the three systems that I'm going to walk you through will actually help you fix all these problems with a proper structure. And the first one is where you're probably losing 3 to 4 hours every week without even realizing it. So the first system is called the Content OS, which also means a content operating system. And this system keeps you visible online without you having to do everything yourself. Now, here's what might be happening with you right now. Probably you sit down to write a post and spend the first hour like figuring out what to write about, and then you write it from scratch. Then you do it again next week. But once when the client work piles up, you are maybe just leaving all that stuff behind, and your content journey gets blocked, right? So the Content OS has four parts that can help you fix this. So the first one is called a research system, and it runs four types of research automatically. Now, you might be thinking, why do you need four types of research, right? And I'll tell you why. Most business owners out there are just creating content to land clients by focusing on only two ways of generating content ideas. Either they will analyze their competitors in the niche and copy them, which is probably one of the most common tactics, or they will just ask ChatGPT or Claude to generate content ideas. And honestly, tracking your competitors is also one of the parts of the research system, but there are other three parts that you are actually missing out on if you want to land clients out of your content. Because here's why merely tracking competitors doesn't work. If you want to find clients through content, you need to understand their problems, pain points, and their frustrations. Now, ask yourself if your competitors are actually doing that or not, because majority of the people are just busy copying what is working in the niche. And to be very honest, I'm not against that. That is also important, but you need to look at other signals, right? And that's where these other three research types come in. The first one is analyzing what your competitors are not talking about so that you can fill the gaps. Then, what's trending in your niche, and what objections are your ideal clients asking around a particular problem. So once you understand all of this stuff, then it's better for you to generate good content ideas that will actually attract the best clients that you would want to work with, right? So the research system analyzes all of that and gives you content ideas into one document so that when you sit down to create, the thinking part is already done and you know exactly what you have to create. And that itself saves you like 3 to 4 hours every single week out there. So the next we have is a design system which will help you create all your social media graphics or landing pages for a new offer. If you consistently keep on creating new landing pages and launch new offers, this is a really interesting system to have in your workflow because it uses AI and it saves you a lot of time. And you also need no designer and no back and forth revisions. The third one is the brand voice system, which is one of the most important parts people probably skip when they want to generate content out of AI, but in a style that matches how they usually create content manually, right? So what happens is when you're just prompting ChatGPT or Claude to give you content ideas or to actually write down a script or an ad, the output will sound generic because you're not giving AI exactly all the kind of rules and the style that you follow when you're creating content. And your brand voice system actually helps you do that. It will give AI everything about how you think, how you structure your ideas, your arguments, and then when AI generates content regarding any topic, it will generate outputs that sound like you. Now, the next and the last part of the content operating system is the writing system, and it produces a draft that's about 85 to 90% ready. Whether it is scripts, articles, ads, landing page copy, it can generate everything, and you will still need to read it and make it yours. But the best part is you are editing a very strong draft and not starting from zero, and that will save you 2 to 3 hours every week. Instead of writing content from scratch, you are just reviewing what is already good to go and just publishing it. Now, that's everything about helping you stay visible online. But here's the thing, visibility doesn't always pay the bills. And if leads are coming in and just sitting there while you are busy with clients, you have just moved the problem to the next stage. And that's exactly what the second operating system fixes. And it is called the lead gen operating system. So, this lead gen operating system makes sure that you never lose a lead just because you were busy. Now, here's what you might probably be facing, right? Someone sees your content and sends you a DM, and you're in sessions all day. But by the time you reply a few hours later, they've already moved on, and that potential booking is already lost. You probably don't even know exactly how many times this happens and how many business owners tend to lose good leads due to that habit. So the lead gen operating system handles this with three things. So the first one is called the speed to lead system, and it takes care of every inbound inquiry the moment it comes in. So it will ask a few questions, filter out the people who aren't a good fit for your service, and books a call with the ones who actually would want to work with you. And by the time you get on that call, the person has already told you what they need and all the details that you can probably have about them. So that will also help you during the sales calls, and you can then have a real conversation that further leads to them becoming your clients in the future. Next, we have the outreach system, which is designed specifically for LinkedIn. So if you're someone who is interested in embracing cold outreach as a strategy for landing clients apart from the content that you're already creating, you can use this system to reach out to your initial clients, follow up with them, and maybe design full sequences as well, because it handles everything automatically and you don't need to worry about doing this manually. And then the last part that completes this entire operating system is the lead magnet system, which helps you create really high converting lead magnets automatically so that you can maybe supply this to your outreach prospects or even hand it out to your organic audience that watches your content. So, putting all the three systems together, your pipeline keeps moving even on the days when you don't want to touch it. Now, the first two systems, that is the content operating system and the lead gen operating system, will create visibility and bring in leads. But without the third one, both of them stop getting better over time. And that's exactly what we want to achieve, right? That's a sort of automation that we're looking for. So the last part of this flywheel is called the intelligence operating system, and this is what most people skip. It's also the one that makes everything else compound. And here's why this layer is important. When you get on a sales call, your prospect says something that perfectly describes what your audience is exactly struggling with, right? The exact words, the exact frustration, and that's like the perfect hook for a piece of content. But when the call ends, you move on, and that insight is just gone because you don't have any underlying system to capture that data and store it for use in the future. And this is exactly where the meeting analysis system comes in, right? It takes your recorded Zoom and Google Meet calls and uses AI to pull out the objections, the patterns, and the exact language people use so that you can use it in your content. And then it tells you exactly what sort of content can be made based on real conversations that you're having with real people, right? And if you remember, in the content OS we discussed how we need to talk about the pain points and frustrations to attract the right audience that will pay for your services. And this is exactly how you get close to that type of conversations and use these real insights in your content to attract better leads. Next, we have the second brain system, which is built on Obsidian and Claude Code. And it's like a memory that stores everything about your business, ranging from insights, decisions, to frameworks and content, so that nothing gets lost. Also, when you bring someone onto your team, they can have access to the same context as you do, which makes handoffs and onboarding much easier. But the most important part isn't what it stores, it's what it feeds back in. And that is the real language from your calls, which makes your content sharper, right? That's exactly why all three of these operating systems have to be connected so it can create what we call the flywheel effect. So, when most people decide to fix the bottlenecks in their business, they will buy a few tools like a scheduling app, a CRM, maybe something for content, and then they'll set it up, feel good for like 2 weeks, and 6 months later, they're still going to be the ones holding everything together. And the biggest reason is tools don't talk to each other. The insight from your meetings or sales calls stays in a recording, but you are not using that to create content. And because you're not doing that, your message is not going to be sharper and you're not going to get good leads. So it's like the decisions you've made are still in your head, like everything is moving, it feels like everything is moving, but nothing is connected. And this is exactly where a flywheel makes the difference. Content OS gets you visible, lead gen OS turns that attention into booked calls, and intelligence OS captures what you learn and feeds it back into better content and sharper messaging. Each system makes the other two better, and the longer it runs, the more it compounds. So imagine this, if you install this content flywheel in your business, your content is going to be sharper because it has been fed real client language, and it will grow much stronger in the coming 6 months, right? Your calls will convert better because your messaging is more specific, and your business doesn't stop when you take time off because the systems keep running without you. And that's the kind of real shift that we are looking for. Not more discipline, not a better routine. It's just these three systems that connect, learn from each other, and get better over time. So, here's the shorter version of everything I just walked you through. Your business feels hard because everything runs through you, and you are the content, the follow up, the memory, and the decision maker all at once, right? That's the problem. So, the content revenue flywheel fixes that. Content OS keeps you visible, Leads and OS makes sure your leads don't go cold, and Intelligence OS captures what you're learning and feeds it back in so the whole thing keeps improving. Now, if you want to understand exactly where the bottlenecks lie in your business, you can use a scorecard that I've created to identify these gaps, and you can find the link for it in the description below. And if you want to go deeper on how these systems are actually built, I'm starting a new Substack newsletter, so you can sign up for it for free. So that's it for this video, and in the upcoming videos, I'll decode each of these systems in detail so you can build them all by yourself. Goodbye.